Last month, my favorite film of the year came out, Madam Web, another Sony success that graced the market. I'll tell you what, it's one of my favorite movies of the year. I went with a bunch of friends of mine and we laughed our asses off. It went on to make $0.00 at the box office. In fact, if you work at McDonald's working paycheck to paycheck at $10 an hour, know that at the end of the week when you collected your check, you ended up making more than Sony did. But I'm not here to talk about Madam Web again. I could talk about low box office numbers, how Dakota Johnson looks dead every interview she does talking about the film, but I'm here to talk about this recent article that just came out. Sony's reportedly unhappy with Dakota Johnson's behavior on the Madam Web press tour. Sony executives are reportedly unhappy with Dakota Johnson's repeated criticism of their new film, Madam Web, during the promotional campaign. In a report published by the Daily Mail Online, Sony reportedly believes that Johnson is dragging the new film, which received scathing reviews from both critics and audiences without taking any responsibility for its failure. Take responsibility for what? She read your crappy lines and vomited out your dialogue the way you handed it to her. It's reported that lots of people at Sony are questioning her star power, and how she reacted to this failure will likely come back to haunt her. The source also noted that not every movie is going to work, but a lot of hard work is put towards even bad movies, and for your star to is a bad look. The insider source continued by saying that Dakota is being looked down on over her talk of the film because everyone in the production is thinking, what if the movie was still the same but also a box office gem? She'd be talking about sequels and probably praising herself over its good fortune. So Sony's reportedly all pissy because she's going around speaking her mind. I mean, I think it's safe to say that Dakota Johnson isn't afraid to get down and dirty when it comes to picking her roles, good or bad films. I'd even go as far as to say the woman has no shame. All this makes me wonder, though, why they're picking on Dakota Johnson in particular. Dakota Johnson in interviews has a history of being soft-spoken. So it should be no surprise to Sony that when the movie flops and turns out to be terrible, that she goes around on interviews and speaks her mind. She forced a smile in every single interview leading up to the film. Now that it's flopped and was reviewed terribly by everybody, suddenly it's not cool that she's dragging the movie down. I wonder why Sony's getting so hard over Dakota Johnson but is leaving Sydney Sweeney alone. She gets to hop on SNL and speak her mind. I wonder why nobody's saying anything to her. It's not really coming to anybody's surprise that Sony's having trouble getting this Spider-Verse off the ground. I mean, they had only 2 good hits with the animated films and with the Venom film. Morbius came out a couple years ago and it bombed and it was a laughing stock. And then now this one, Madam Web, made even less money. Now Sony's looking and grasping at straws, trying to blame anybody for their failures. Everyone except themselves. They're willing to pick on people who can't stand up for themselves, and they're looking to scapegoat Dakota Johnson. It's really quite sick when you think about it. But that's how they work, and that's how they've always worked. Remember when Andrew Garfield got on Twitter and started bad-mouthing them too? Then they tried to shut him out? Yeah, this is no different. Anyway, I think that's everything I gotta say. What a terrible way to end a franchise. Can't wait for Venom 3, though.